in a couple of weeks, it'll all be fine. In a couple of weeks, I'll be back. In a couple of weeks, I'll feel better. I'll have my energy, da, 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 da. That arrival fallacy in a couple of weeks. And she said she had the insight to recognize that she had been saying that for months now.
Hello, my beautiful friends. My name is Dr. Becc.
And I am Kristeen Barker, and this is Am I Doing It Wrong? A podcast for doctors by doctors. Dr. Becc is a mindset coach and medical doctor who specialises in liberating driven professional women from the limitations of perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and people pleasing. She's basically the cheat code for getting out of your own way, showing up authentically, and living a life you're proud of.
And Kristeen is a medical educator and nephrologist who creates resources for doctors in training that I truly think are an unfair advantage. She makes complex topics super simple and takes the pain and uncertainty out of passing your medical exams. Kristeen and I connected a few years ago via our online platforms, and over the years we've discussed countless highs, lows, and in-betweens of doctor life. And in doing so, we've experienced firsthand the power of vulnerable conversations to show us where we're getting in our own way and underestimating our capacity.
So we want you to be part of the conversation and experience these same results. Every week on the pod, we'll be bringing you conversations which shine light in dark places, normalize the doctor journey, ease unnecessary suffering, and give you actionable steps to thrive in all facets of your life. So grab a cuppa and get cozy for this week's episode of Am I Doing It Wrong? The podcast for doctors by doctors.
This question that we're going to share with you today will help save you a lot of time, a lot of energy, and help you make this decision process a lot easier to work out what needs to change in your life, what you can change in your life, what you'd like to change in your life to start to live a life that feels really good for you. Generally, when we're thinking about how to plan our lives, what we're going to do with our lives, what our lives are going to look like, I think the first thing that happens is we, particularly as doctors, as people who are by definition high achievers, a lot of us fall into this trap of doing what is praiseworthy. There's a very strong tone of this is a good thing, this is the right thing. We'll pick these career paths and build this lifestyle from wanting to do something that is good for society, that's good for the world, that other people appreciate and that makes a difference. And that's a wonderful thing. However, what is praiseworthy is not necessarily the same thing as what leads you to a life that you really enjoy. So that question, that direction has its flaws. And then the other thing, I think people will say, well, what makes you happy? What's your passion? So in today's episode, we have a question for you that is going to help you answer this question of how you should be structuring your life, how you should decide what type of work to do, what type of career you could go into, and more than just your career, but also the other aspects of your life in a way that isn't as sort of fluffy as the what are you passionate about question, and in a way that is more integrous and more true to yourself. So Kristeen's going to take us away with a story of how this one came about.
I cannot wait to unpack this. And like you say, it has layers. It's that question of like, how can you live a life that you don't need a holiday from? And the reason that this is so prominent in my mind is because last week I literally went to the Gold Coast for a few days by myself with the hope that, or the plan to, rejuvenate, connect with myself, kind of draw a line in the sand between a busy period and the upcoming busy period, all the busy periods. And I went there thinking that I was gonna have a full body reset, feel amazing, come back refreshed. And none of that is true. None of that actually happened. And I have definitely had experiences before where I have gone away and had a reset. So I just thought, well, that's the magic recipe. You just head on up to Queensland. Queensland's great. And get a little bit of sun. But what actually happened when I was there was some stuff going on with my family at home. Sort of unexpected things came up that weren't great. Also, I was still there. I still had all of the same cognitive load that I had when I was in Melbourne. Like, wherever you go, there you are. And then I also didn't have, because I'd went to sort of reset and I thought, okay, I want to do beach walks and journaling and I don't know, just walk around shops. And my partner, like that is his idea of a living nightmare, those three things. was like, well, he can stay here. That's fine. So I went with that, but then I actually felt like I didn't have him and I missed him. And it was like, that was a real downer actually of the trip. And I'm someone who's very happy with myself, but my point is, I had in my head this picture of the cure for whatever was wrong with me, wrong with my energy. Like, so, I wasn't feeling good, and I thought this was going to be the answer. This was going to be, my new beginning in the middle of 2024. And it just wasn't, Becc. It just wasn't. So it's made me really return. I felt like I came back airport day. I was in the departure lounge, I was on the plane, and I was literally just trying to find the answer to this question, like, where have I been going wrong? And how do I change this? And how do I live a life that I don't need a holiday from? And I'm going to make it my mission to figure this out.
What life do you not need a holiday from? What is a life that you don't need a holiday from? I just think it's the most brilliant question ever. I think it's way better than what does everybody else think I should do, basically, and what is my passion? What is a life that I don't need a holiday from, i.e., that I don't feel like I need to escape from? I think this is probably the way that we all want to set our compasses, because I hear this all too often. And actually, one of my girlfriends the other day, she was saying, I just feel like I keep saying, in a couple of weeks, it'll all be fine. In a couple of weeks, I'll be back. In a couple of weeks, I'll feel better. I'll have my energy, that arrival fallacy in a couple of weeks. And she said she had the insight to recognize that she had been saying that for months now. She kept saying, soon, I'll get to feel like myself and be myself and show up how I really want to show up again. And she was like, oh, if I could just get a week away. And I was like, oh my goodness, look, it's possible that's going to be the thing. But my thought was, a week's not probably going to be enough. If you've been having this situation for months saying, I just need to hold on for 2 more weeks. And I think this is how a lot of us set up our lives to have, and also how the hospital system sets up our lives. We only get our block of annual leave. And to me personally, 5 weeks a year, or whatever it ends up being, I've known from the start, from when I started working, that is not how I want to live my life. To have just 5 weeks of feeling totally free and feeling like I'm really living life the way that I want to live it. And the solution isn't necessarily that, you build a life with more than 5 weeks leave. But I was saying that because I was thinking about, as a junior doctor, working full-time hours and then only having 5 weeks of leave. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's just not going to work for me. That's just not the way that I want to live the next 5 decades until I retire. And that's why I just think, if you start from this position of, what life do I not need a holiday from, then it doesn't matter if you only have 5 weeks of leave. That 5 weeks of leave is just like a bonus time to do something a bit different, to explore, to experiment. But it's not something that you're holding out for and putting your life on hold until you have those 5 weeks. And scarily, even more concerning, actually, it was sometime during the COVID pandemic, and I was just trying to do a quick Google before we jumped on to see if I could pick up this statistic. But I remember reading sometime in the COVID pandemic that as physicians, a significant proportion of us were using the idea of retirement as a motivator to be able to keep working. I think I've got it here. Dr. Shanafelt said that in one study, 37% of physicians reported looking forward to retirement as an effective wellness strategy. This is the same thing as the survival mentality. And what was notable was that it was equally common to report that the strategy for those under the age of it was notable that this was an equally common strategy to report for those under the age of 40 as those who are older. Yeah, so that's pretty striking. And again, it's not necessarily that is But I don't think that's a good strategy. You know, if that genuinely in the moment motivates you and makes you happy to think about retirement, that's great. And also, I just think, especially, you know, to think about people who are under 40s, like at the start of their career, and for something as something that brings them joy and motivation to be thinking about not being in that career anymore. I would really love for us to actually start thinking about, well, let's start really valuing our experience and valuing what we want over these next several decades of our lives, and make changes so that retirement isn't necessarily the solution, or retirement isn't necessarily something that's better. What if your life right now could be the best case scenario? So I think this is one of the best questions that we can use to think about building a life that doesn't fall into this trap of I'll be happy when, but actually starts to think about, what is my life right now? What can I add into my life and take away from my life right now so that I'm not putting my life on hold? So thank you so much, Kristeen. And also thank you for bringing up this whole, like, you know, I'm going to work, and then I'm going to have like a couple of days break and then I'll be all better kind of common thing that we doctors do. We think, oh yeah, I'll sleep for 3 days and I'll be back. How often does that work out?
Not at all. And I think it's such an interesting point you make about the push, and then the arrival fallacy of, you know, I just need to do this for retirement, and I need to maybe make this much money so that I have this much money in retirement, and I've got this much superannuation or whatever it is that you're doing to prepare for your retirement. And I think the same thing applies even to the grind. Like it might be that people are buying investment properties or other big assets for one reason or another. It might be to set themselves up for retirement, or it might be like what you said, it seems like a good thing to do. What a fantastic thing to do is to build wealth and have assets. But the truth is that, like, unless you own those things outright, they create a cognitive load that keeps you working and keeps you working long hours. and I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. And you know, I fully admire people who do bold things like that. I'm a lot more reserved, I must say, but I guess it's that sort of thing, isn't it, where we almost like build this life and build these kind of cages where I guess that creates a barrier to being able to answer this question honestly. And I guess what I'm kind of realizing for myself is that when we are, you know, living our best lives, when we're happy in our lives, when we're having those beautiful little moments, there's probably a couple of things that are happening. And that might be, you know, if you think about when you go on holiday, you're probably spending time with people you love. You're in a beautiful place, usually in nature, a beach or somewhere, or just somewhere different. There's something all worthy to look at. There might be nice weather and all the things. Other things in my sort of general life, I love like my little cat, like hanging out with him. And there's just all these beautiful things that can happen that are very, very simple. And I feel like those things happen on holiday. But then you have this, I guess, when you're on holiday, it's almost like you've got permission to enjoy them, or you notice them, or but all of the things that you can seem to achieve on holiday that are very fulfilling and beautiful, like if we really think about it, they could be present in our actual daily lives. But I don't think, like recently when I'm asking myself this question, I've become hyper aware of these moments in my daily life, because I'm like looking at this question and I'm on a mission to sort of live my life a better way. But I feel like, you know, a lot of the time I'm just going through the motions and not realizing things. And one thing that I absolutely love about you, Becc, especially when you are, I don't know, when you've taken yourself off for a little day trip somewhere, or you're just in a coffee shop somewhere, and sometimes you'll send me a message and you're just loving your life, and it's all these little things, like you're the queen of romanticizing your life and realizing the richness in your life. And I just feel like I can certainly learn a lot from you. So can you tell us a bit about that? Like, how can we actually just look around in our daily lives or find little moments that are actually just as beautiful or even more beautiful than when we're on an extravagant holiday?
Yeah, and I I fall for that trap as well, just to start with. I was so lucky I got to spend almost 3 months living and working in Europe last year. And I recognized how I was, and even a version of myself that I liked even more so many of those days of the holiday, which wasn't because I was in Europe. It was, I was that version of myself because I was being more appreciative of where I was. I was walking around expecting at every turn to be delighted or humid, fascinated. It was the way that I interacted with the environment. It wasn't the fact that I was in it wasn't even the fact that I was in a new place. But because I was in a new place, I was paying attention differently. I was like looking around with fascination and awe and interest to my surroundings versus, when I'm walking around my day-to-day life here where I live, I don't do that. I don't engage that. I'll just walk straight past a tree where I live, and it's not the same tree every day. It changes day by day, and it really changes season by season. But I couldn't even tell you that. I wouldn't even notice that because I don't pay as much attention here as I did when I was on holiday in a new place. So I just really want to own that up, and I think I do a good job. And in particular, as you're saying, particularly when I will take myself specifically on dates somewhere, or I'm going to choose to have a day where I just get into that mode, I do an amazing job of switching that mode on. And also, I've got so much more room to move in my life. Like I could, and I fully intend to add so much more of this mindset into my life where I actually appreciate, I'm just talking about, my surroundings at the moment, but we're going to talk about extending this out to the people in your life, the close people and the strangers in your life, my gorgeous dog Humphrey and all the other animals in our lives. And also with ourselves, there are so many different levels and places that we can take this in, but just on the most simple level, appreciating our environment. Yes, I do a good job, and I've got a lot of skills there that I practiced. And also I can get so much more out of life if I build these more. And that is my plan, and something that I want to be very consciously committed to. But yes, romanticizing your life. This is something that I want for every single person in the world. Some of my favorite feelings are feeling lucky, feeling passionate, feeling, I love feeling obsessed with something. I love being obsessed. I love getting in that mode where I'm just like, this thing is the best thing in the world. It's one of my favorite modes to be in. And some people might find that super annoying or weird because they're like, it's just a tree. Why are you so excited about the tree? But when you allow yourself to go into that full appreciation mode, it is one of the best, I think, human experiences that you can have. Feeling lucky and gratitude. It's kind of like this smooth appreciation. And then going up the spectrum to even allowing yourself to be really passionate and obsess over something is more like a highly activated version of that appreciation and gratitude mode. So this is the kind of thing that I will, I'll have days and I will take myself somewhere. And admittedly, I'll often do it with, somewhere new or different. As you mentioned, Kristeen, especially when I get to go and do locums, and I'll try to go to different towns. And when you can go to different towns, there are little towns available close to those towns as well. So I go out and explore, and I'll take myself just simply on a coffee date. You don't have to spend any money for this, a bit of money in petrol, and then you pay for a couple of coffees, and suddenly you get to explore a whole town, sitting and slowly taking in the environment and enjoying the people. So that's something that I'll really commonly do. I'll take a day to just go out and sort of cafe hop, and I will just explore whatever town or place I'm in from that perspective. And the whole idea is you slow down so that you can actually observe and take in what's happening. And then you make a big deal about it. You make a really big deal about everything good that you pick up on. And I promise you, if you are if your mind is busy, if you're in a rush, if you're worried about something, you are gonna, so two people in parallel, one person's in that kind of mindset space and the other person's in this romanticizing your life space. The person who's romanticizing their life is going to have a completely different experience of whatever town you visit or whatever new place in your normal hometown you visit. You'll have a totally different experience of the people that you interact with, and they will interact with you differently based on how you're showing up. And the world actually becomes different for you. I cannot emphasize this enough. When you show up in a way that romanticizes the world, and I'm just going to talk about on that spectrum, anything from simply appreciating your life with that kind of calm, cool, like recognition of how lucky you are and how grateful you are, all the way up to deciding to just obsess over the goodness or the brilliance of something, or even just how different something is, or how normal it is, but how delightful that is. If you show up in anywhere on this spectrum, you are going to have a different experience of the world. And in turn, you act different because you're having that different experience. And then people will act very differently to you as well. You know, you get to interact. I think that's another thing about showing up this way. On the days when I'm not in this mode, because I'm not in this mode every day, but on the days when I'm not in this mode, I don't have as many connections with other people because I've probably got my head down and probably in my own space. But on the days that I show up and I'm romanticizing my life, it invites all these other people into my life as well, which is, as we will talk about, a whole nother level of creating a life that, or I suspect for everyone, but definitely for Kristeen and I, connecting with other people is a part of creating a life that we really love and that we don't have to have a holiday from. So that is the meaning of romanticizing your life to me. And I cannot recommend it highly enough. You don't have to suddenly become this person who's constantly feeling gratitude or lucky or passionate or obsessed with things. But just, I would highly encourage you to practice it so that when you want it, you have the skill to be able to switch on those modes and go into those modes and start to experience life through that lens. Because when you recognize that it's not the fact that you're traveling or that you're in a different place that makes you feel that way, or that makes the place so good. There's nothing particularly special, I don't think, about necessarily any place in the world. But when you have the ability to see what's special about a place, suddenly every place is special. That is, I believe that from the bottom of my heart. You know, there's goodness everywhere, but the difference is, do you see it or do you ignore it? I ignore it a lot of times in my life. In, you know, even in my hometown, I spend more days than I'd like ignoring it. And whenever I want to switch back on, I can see that goodness again in the next moment. So such a highly recommended skill.
I love this so much. And it feels like what you're saying is it's a conscious choice. Like you can switch this on if you choose to. And I totally agree with that. And I think honestly, what's been happening for me recently, because I've been asking myself this question, is I think my subconscious is going to work and bringing it up for me so that it's happening by accident. But what I'll do is it's happening probably on a daily basis at the moment. I'll be having these little moments as if by accident where it's almost like the world pauses for a minute and it's like I'm shown my surroundings. And I'm not doing it deliberately necessarily, but it's beautiful. And I think I'm supposed to learn something about it. But it's happening quite a lot when I'm in the kitchen with my partner and we're just cooking dinner and we might be having like a little bit of a giggle about something. I don't know, it's this magical thing where we're cooking together, which is just a lovely thing to do. It's nourishing in so many ways. And it's happened like so many times in the last few days where I've just been like, wow, like this person's here in my life. My kitchen is a fabulous kitchen to cook in. Thank God somebody who came with a house. I would never have come up with this. This is great. You know what I mean? And there's so much love in the moment. There's love for my partner. There's like mutual. And then obviously my little cat's there. Like there's like you say, you can almost get obsessed with that moment. And it sounds kind of bonkers, like I'm on some kind of mushrooms talking about this with you just now. But like for reals, these are the experiences I'm having because I'm consciously, so although I've not consciously made the switch to say, right, today I'm going to romanticize my life. What would Becc do? Let's be Becc today. Although I'm not doing that, because I'm just asking myself, okay, what's important to me, basically? How am I going to live a life that I love? And it's like I keep being present in these moments accidentally. So I think there's power to just deciding that you want to discover things about yourself, like discover where your happy moments in your day actually are. And it's just absolutely fascinating that's happening. And I'm realizing, like, you were talking earlier about how we're pushing until we arrive somewhere. And really, the kind of magic of it is you're already there. Like, even if you don't go to the cafe, even if you're just in your house and you have a coffee and you sit and you like look around your house, you put some music on, and you can create a beautiful atmosphere in your home all by yourself. Like, you don't have to go anywhere. Although connecting with people is beautiful, but I think that we're already there, and there's this, it's almost like we just need to put a different set of glasses on, like there's a different lens, whether it's accidental or on purpose, and it's a beautiful little lens. And I want to hack the lens. Like, I want to get up in the morning and just chuck that on there, like on my face, because it's actually a beautiful thing. And I think gradually that's what I'm journaling about it. That's where I'm sort of arriving at. I'm sort of like understanding about myself. I've been pushing, I've been building, I've been working as a doctor. I've been building this business, and the business is, so grateful. It's it's got momentum now, and for years and years and years it really didn't, and now it does. And I'm so grateful, and I'm so proud of all my little ducklings and how they're all doing, and it's become like this ecosystem. And then what's also true is when you have a business, like you listen to these business podcasts and everything, and everyone's telling you, like, well, the next stage is you need to earn this much money and you need to employ people and you need to do this and that. And everyone's like, what you said, there's these like things that other people tell you is the next step. And then you try and reach that, but then you realize, what am I doing this for? Like, I don't want to build something I need a holiday from. So what's the answer? And it really is, like, it is the golden question for me right now, but it's the golden question for, I imagine, everyone who's listening. Like, if everyone, and I can't imagine that other people have this sorted out.
Absolutely. And I think if you recognize yourself in that space, if you are, either holding on, pushing to that next holiday, or you notice that you're actually one of those people who's looking forward to retirement, thinking, I'll get to enjoy life then, I'll have it all sorted then. Or maybe it's even something more like, once I pay off my house, once I get this position, once I'm working in this place, whatever the place that you think, when I arrive, I'm gonna be good then, I'm gonna be happy then. It's a really good idea with, recognizing this question that Kristeen and I are posing to you today. What's a life that you don't need a holiday from? What do you think is going to be different there? And that might seem really obvious, but it's only obvious to the point that you're talking about more like the situational aspects of it. But what I'm really asking here is, how are you going to feel different when you're there? What feeling, what experience of life are you chasing? What are you really wanting from, take retirement. Are you looking forward to retirement because then you think you're going to feel free? You're going to tell yourself, now I can do whatever I want to do with my life. I'd be really interested if that's your answer, because then I can travel. Well, what do you think you're going to get out of travel? Really asking yourself, because then we can say, why do I think I can't have that now? Some of it might be practical, useful, good answers like, oh, well, I want to save this much money to do da, 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 and so on. Some of the answers will be things you want to hold on to and take under consideration. But I don't want people to be waiting till retirement to be able to feel a sense of freedom in their life. And maybe you want the sense of freedom because you want to start using that time to do other creative things, or because you want to spend more time with other people, or feel like you have enough time for this particular hobby or to sleep. And what we're really asking here with this question of what is a life you don't need a holiday from is, what do you want to start incorporating into your life right now? And where are you withholding that from yourself in a way that you don't need to? Kristeen was talking about wanting, like, having these moments of appreciation for her life right now amidst her normal day-to-day life, and recognizing all the good things she has in her life right now. What also comes with that is when we're in the arrival fallacy and we're thinking, when I'm there, then I will get to feel all these kinds of things, is we do neglect what's right here in front of us and what we have right now. That is something that I noticed I was doing the other day, because I was very focused on my productivity, very focused on my work output. I was thinking, once I get this work done, once I have this phase finished, then I can and recognizing that I don't want to spend the next 3 weeks being stressed or sad or feeling behind or holding my breath in any way. I don't want to waste those 3 weeks of my life when actually I could do what Kristeen was doing here in the kitchen, just taking a couple of moments, a couple of minutes, maybe even a couple of hours in my day to feel good. Like, there's no reason that I can't integrate more good feelings and good experiences into my day, except that I'm not paying attention and I'm not appreciating what I have. So it really is, this question offers you two different opportunities to make changes in your life. One is in the circumstances of your life. If you answer that question of, why am I thinking retirement will be better? Why am I thinking having this holiday will make everything better? What exactly is it that I believe I'm going to get from those times? What am I going to have in my life that will make a difference? That will give you clues as to what you want to start integrating more into your life of now, even if it's literally more days off work. Maybe you're actually working simply a greater proportion of your life than you actually want to. And we want to always put it on the table. It always feels more responsible, particularly with today's challenges. It always feels like the more responsible thing to earn more money now and save for retirement later. But really think about retirement later in your life. Is having that retirement time later in your life, having more money in that retirement time and more ease, worth you sacrificing or compromising on the next 20, 30, 40 years? No right or wrong, but a genuine question. We don't want to accept the default answers of it's always safer to save more money. So that's circumstances. You might want to change circumstances in your life. And then the other thing that you want to think about is basically mindset. Do you want to have more good feelings in your day? Do you want to have more energy in your day? Do you want to feel happy and abundant and like you have so many good things in your life? And do you want to feel passionate about what you're doing? Do you want to feel obsessed with these things that you do have in your life that are actually incredible? I love obsessing over the people in my life. Kristeen's somebody who's very easy to obsess over. I'm like, oh my goodness, how do I have this human in my life? When you have so many people in your life right now who you're like, I hit the jackpot with these people. Like, you could appreciate by paying attention to things differently. And then doing that, it's not just a gift that you're giving to the world. Doing that actually makes you feel really good and gives you energy as well. So that's the other change. One change is, do I need to change my circumstances to have a life that I don't need a holiday for? And the second one is, do I need to change the way that I'm looking at what I have? Do I need to change my mindset so that I get to feel the way that I want to feel in my life, so that I don't need a holiday from that.
I was going to say though, when you're thinking about changing your circumstances, be conscious that that's not a manifestation of trying to escape. So something that I always find, now I wonder if you can relate to this, is that when I'm having these feelings of trying to escape from my life, I'll be scrolling realestate.com. I'll be looking for a job in Canada and seeing what that's like. Google this new life. And that, although you're saying you need a change in circumstances, just be mindful that if you've got that restlessness looking for a change in circumstances, just be mindful if it's a manifestation of this escaping behavior, because it's not the answer if it is. Yeah.
That's right. And that's why it's so good to do those questions of like, what, if you're looking at that job in Canada, you're like, what do I think? What am I subconsciously thinking will be better or different about the job in Canada versus here? Because that tells you what you want. Just go that one step further. You're like, well, then if I work in Canada, then I won't have to do on-call, or I'll get paid more, or I'll have more time skiing. Like get to those sort of, and that's not even deep enough. Go further and further and further as far as your mind will let you go, so that you can be like, this is what I want right now. Do I want to move to Canada for that? Or is there, something I can sort out in a less dramatic way?
Usually if I just clean my house, and especially if I mop the floors, because that's a more rare part of cleaning for me, I'm suddenly like, oh, I like living here again. This place is a vibe. But until I've like vacuumed properly, and I don't know, sometimes you just need to clean your house. Like, just being honest, that's simple things.
So good, guys. We would love for you to answer this question about what would be a life for you that you do not need a holiday from. And you can either do, follow kind of the pattern that we went through today, which is like, if you have this arrival fallacy, really thinking about what do you think the end outcomes of that are? What does that help show you about what you want more in your life for the moment, or right now in this moment? And then also, it's just a really fun question to ask from a blank slate. It's a really, I wish that when I actually do have a life that I don't need a holiday from. I actually feel like I have too many holidays, and I love my work so much. I'd like to work more. But I'm happy I'm prioritizing, the important things. But when, if we could ask this question to people at the start of their careers and get people out of that trap of falling into doing what's praiseworthy because they think that it's the right thing, they think that it's the thing that will contribute to society. And then if we can get people away from, or the question of what are you passionate about? It's a great question, but I think it's just hard to answer. It's hard to answer in a job context. And sometimes, the other thing is you don't necessarily want to be passionate all day, all the time. Part of living a life you don't need a holiday from is having that full spectrum of emotions too, having the depths, the ups and the downs. The goal isn't to be happy all the time and be passionate all the time. And I think that's why that question is quite hard to answer, because there's not many things that I could do, 40 hours plus a week with like passion, just like for the whole 40 hours. So this question that we're posing to you, if you could, I would love to see this question more for people at the start of their careers. Just answer it from a blank slate. What would be a life that you wouldn't even want to go on a holiday from, that you could just do, month in, month out, and feel like it just hits all those points for you? It ticks all the boxes. It's logistically, it's got the amount of like exertion and rest and challenge and ease and connection and alone time and all those sorts of things. Think about those kinds of all those different dimensions of what it is to be a human, what life is, and just answer that question from like a what if place. What, for me right now, if I could design a life, like just forget all that's happened before, what would it look like? How many hours a day would I work? How many people would I interact with? And what would we be interacting about? How would I be serving? How would I be relaxing? All those kinds of things. So it's fun to answer from both places. There's so many different aspects to it. But thank you so much for this question, Kristeen. It is just gold.
Yeah, and I almost feel like we need like hopefully in a few months' time, maybe another recap episode where we document our progress, because I am seriously on a mission with this one, and I hope you are too. Let's all do as Dr. Becc says and just have a think about what we want for ourselves and see if we can design a life. You might even just appreciate the life you have. Just find those little moments. Yeah, absolutely.
I've been waiting all my life for something. I've been down the darkest roads and up in the clouds, but I've always felt that something's missing. That was until I found you right there in the crowd.
Simple things.